One of the many recent books that I've picked up is The Pagan Dream of the Renaissance by Jocelyn Godwin, which has a very nice cover design. It's always nice to get something in hardcover, especially at a good price. Usually if I score something for a good price, it's softcover or paperback, which is not a problem, but you can't go wrong with the durability of a hardcover. And am I foolish enough to think that it is just to review this book after reading one chapter? Absolutely not. That would be absurd. However, I don't think it would be all that bad of a thing to simply have a discussion about books like this after reading one chapter. Unfortunately, almost every time I read something about my European heritage in book form, whether it be something about a particular era and time like the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, the Neolithic, whatever have you, or maybe it's something specifically about the spirituality and religion of peoples before the introduction of Christianity to Europe, that's where it can get especially offensive. But anyways, almost every time I read something in book form as opposed to online, I am oftentimes put off by the introduction itself. I'll still read the book 95% of the time. There have been times, admittedly, that I wish I had heeded the warning of how much slander and false generalizations there are just within an introduction itself of a book like this. Now, obviously, this doesn't deal with pre-Christian Europe, at least not for the most part. The Renaissance is not pre-Christian Europe, but it deals with the beliefs of peoples in Europe before the introduction of Christianity, so it is relevant to what I'm talking about. In reading about things online, at least for me, in my experience, what I can do is eat around a lot of less useful information and things that may seem a bit too biased. I feel like I can sometimes get more information from the internet than a book. Sometimes there are books that pretty much only hold the information I am seeking. A lot of the times, those books are expensive. I've paid a lot of money for books sometimes, and that is because they're out of print and sometimes contain information that I seemingly can't find anywhere else. But as opposed to reading about things online, when I am reading a book, I feel like I have to discipline myself to read it properly. I don't want to read a book the wrong way. I don't want to just go to the index, pick out a particular topic that is interesting to me, go to the middle of the book, read about it, and call it done. I want to read it from start to finish. So I am committed to doing this, and in a sense, I am trapped. I guess you can argue I'm trapped in the book, but that's not always a bad thing, because I like reading books. I prefer reading books over reading about things online. I would like to read almost everything I want to know about in book form. Sometimes it's not possible to get the most out of the experience in doing that, but I would prefer reading. I like physically holding a book and having that experience. But going back to what I was saying about the introduction of a book oftentimes being the most frustrating and baffling experience of a book, even though this book does not have a formal introduction, I would argue that the first chapter, if it's starting right off the bat with its first chapter, and that chapter introduces the contents of the book and discusses what the book is going to be about, that in essence has the same effect as a formal introduction. And in this first chapter of this book, right here, it has a style of false generalization that seems to be a trend amongst other scholarly writers, and I know there are exceptions, not all of them write this way. But what I find is that scholarly figures in writing try to be too definitive in what they say, when they should approach it theoretically. We can only make theories about the past. If there's one thing you should take away from this video, it is that we should not generalize about the past. We should make theories, because we weren't there. So when you have a style of false generalization that is found in just the first few pages of this book, like this, No one believed in this. None of these people practiced this. That really frustrates me, something like that. No one believed in this. Do you see what is wrong with that? I mean, I really hope you do. I mean, that is just absurd. We didn't know these people. We weren't there. And I feel like a lot of the authors writing the books about these sorts of topics are in the rhythm of doing something like this, largely because they feel safe doing it. And what I mean by that is that they feel safe doing it because they know that in making a book like this, they can just introduce a concept or an idea that might make you think they're about to discuss a unique and original idea of their own, and then they proceed to quote other people. Unfortunately, a lot of these books consist of just quotations of other people. I don't want to read a compilation of other people's quotes. I really don't. I don't fucking care. Unless it is absolutely vital to quote someone else, if it is something that is totally original, and the only way you could bring up the idea is if it was just to quote another person. I feel like with reading a lot of these books that effectively I'm just reading someone's reaction to someone else's work. They put their names on these books. They act like there's going to be original ideas, and perhaps there will be original ideas in this. I don't know. I'll read the rest of the book. Maybe I'll do a full review of it. But this reminded me of books I have read all the way through that never improve past the point of including contents like this right off the bat. I hope that it gets better, I really do. But almost all the time when there are things of this nature at the beginning of the book, it does not get better. It continues to be like that.